Okay, welcome everybody. This is the Curious Circuit podcast and this is episode 3. And I am thrilled to be talking to 3 wonderful students from the School of Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences. And I suppose today I'm interested in finding out about their experiences as undergraduates in the School of BEES. We'll use the acronym BEES for Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences. But I'm interested in finding out what their experiences during the last 4 years, and particularly in the degree programme that they have all chosen. So we'll do around the room, and our first guest is...
Hi, my name is Daniela Lipa and I originally come from Poland, but I've spent all my childhood and all my years in Ireland, and I live in Killarney.
Great, thanks Daniela. And next?
Hi, my name is Ella McCarthy. I am originally from Birmingham, but I've lived in Ireland for the past 10 years.
Great, thanks Ella. And?
Hi everyone, I'm Thomas Hartree. I'm from Waterford, Ireland, but I live and study in Cork now.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Tom. So I suppose the starting point, we could maybe go back as far as the CAO. And if I just say first that the programme that you've all come in through, CK404, so with CK404, the entry requirements would be at least 6 subjects, isn't that right, for the Leaving Cert? 1 lab science from either biology, chemistry, physics, ag science, something like that. And the points last year to get into this programme are 489. Yeah. So there are other routes in. The Leaving Cert these days is not the only route, and we'll come back to talking a bit more about that in a minute. Maybe, Aniela, if I start with you and your experience through the CAO application, and did you did you study biology? Because I notice not all of our students come in with biology, even though this is kind of obviously a biology programme. So
I actually did study biology and chemistry for my Leaving Cert, but they were definitely not my favourite subjects. I mean, I always had an interest for science, but my heart was always kind of in the art section. I did art for my Leaving Cert and Junior Cert, and I felt like I just thought that going into a science stream is kind of the right choice for where the future is going, where pharmaceuticals and all that.
Yeah.
But then after doing applied plant biology, especially in my final year, I have come to realise that art actually plays a huge section in the stream of science and STEM in general. And I think that's something that's very unusual for me, and I'm very happy that this is actually the case.
Yeah, I'm delighted to hear you say that. And of course, we'll come back to what I'm about to say now in a minute. We were talking about STEAM activities, STEAM standing, of course, for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts and Maths. Isn't that right? And we had a wonderful symposium down in the Photo Education Centre last Wednesday as a capstone project for the Irish Tree Explorers Network. And we'll come back to talking about art as well. Ella, what about you and your experiences with the CAO?
So I filled in my CAO around the time of COVID, and around the time of Brexit we weren't really sure what was happening. So that did end up influencing the courses that I chose. Originally I wanted to do veterinary medicine, but in Ireland it was a very limited course. I think only UCD do it, so I'd have to leave Ireland and go to somewhere in Europe. So I decided just to do like a general science degree. Mm-hmm. And these gave me kind of what I was looking for. I could study plants, I could study animals. It was very general the first year, which I really appreciated. Mm-hmm. And then I decided, once I was actually in bees, that my interest didn't really lie with the animal side of the course. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the plant side and the environmental science. Mm-hmm. So applied plant biology was the right fit choice for me.
For you, yeah. And just, with the Leaving Cert, you said you did biology, did you?
I did biology and chemistry.
You did for Leaving Cert. And just on that, I know it's a couple of years ago now, a few years ago, but can you remember what the curriculum, the Leaving Cert biology curriculum in relation to plants? Because my impression, it's a while ago now since I did my Leaving Cert, but my impression, it hasn't changed all that much, and it's still heavily focused on plant anatomy, which I know, some people really don't like. But when you come into college, it's quite different, isn't it?
It is extremely different when you come into college. The most I remember from my Leaving Cert biology in regards to plants is learning about photosynthesis.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly find it very interesting.
Yeah. You have to memorise lots of areas in the pathway, isn't that right?
But it's not a reflection of actual plant science.
Yeah. You do very different, and we're going to go through in some detail now as we go through the 4 years, actually, isn't that right? Yeah. And then, Tom, over to you and the CAO.
Yeah, so my entryway was a little bit different. I'm actually a mature student, so I didn't go through the CAO entryway. I went through the mature student entry, which is a bit less restrictive, I suppose, in some ways, because it's not a points-based system. It's more an app, like you write a letter and explain why you want to do the course and why you feel you're suitable. So,
and any prior learning, I suppose.
Yeah, because when I was actually doing my Leaving Cert, I had no science background at all. I didn't do biology or chemistry or anything. So the B's course did a great job in first and second year to really get that foundational level up, because I was a bit nervous coming in to not having the science background, but now I feel totally equipped to handle anything. Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's great to get another perspective that there's more than one entry route into our degree programs, isn't that right? And it's great to hear that. And Tom, you did do a QQI level 5, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, during the COVID lockdown quarantines, I was took part of a level 5 horticulture QQI course, and that's where I learned that I love plant science, actually, because a lot of it was focused on landscaping and ornamental gardening and that type of thing, which is great in its own right, but I really found that my love is on the hard science side of things. So
yeah, fantastic. And I suppose for anybody thinking of doing this degree, APB, it's called Applied Plant Biology. If you have any queries, you can use a general email address, bees @ucc.ie, and we'll come straight back to you to answer your queries. So if we go back then, and Aniela, I might come back to you. Or actually, I'll go to Ella. Sorry, Ella, you were talking about how you liked the mixture of all the different subjects, and in first year, like I teach first year, have been now for quite some time, but you do a broad range, don't you? We do from cells, biomolecules, genetics, physiology, habitats. You do a module called Grand Challenges, and we might talk about some of those era-defining challenges at this point. You do a bit of chemistry, you look at the environment, and then you do a few modules in geology as well. And I suppose in B's, our emphasis is on giving students choice, right? And you take modules that you will never have covered at Leaving Cert level, isn't that right? And then at the end of first year, all of the students then will have a choice to go into a number of different degree streams. And you chose the applied plant biology, you said, based on the modules that you found you loved so, in first year.
In first year, you do a lot of different modules for relating to different courses, but I'd never really previously thought about applied plant biology, and to be honest, I didn't know it was something you could have a career in before college.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I just really enjoyed the plant biology modules, and then I found out that certain modules I didn't enjoy as much that I thought I would have enjoyed previously, but I just went in with a really open mind, I guess.
Exactly, and that's a great point, I think, and that's what we try to tell the first years in September every year. Keep an open mind, because, as I say, you will encounter subjects, topics that you didn't know or hadn't really thought about up to that point in school. So that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah.
If I can just say, I came in knowing that I wanted to do plant science, and I don't regret it.
Oh, so. Well done. Thanks, Tom. I should click the applause button there for that. Well done. And Aniela, then, so at the end of first year, you chose applied plant biology, and then you moved into the second year. And then, so things begin to kind of look a little different as you move into your second year, right? So you have, in the second year in the applied plant biology program, you cover things like fundamentals of ecology, you do plant and animal genetics, so you're still doing a mixture of topics in a way. You do some geology or geoscience modules, you do a little bit of microbiology, isn't that right? And you do some plant biotechnology. And to me, this really signals kind of the importance of looking at the world in kind of across different disciplines, isn't that right? Different systems. So using kind of a systems approach to kind of drill down into our different kind of problems that we're trying to address. So we pride ourselves on students getting a broad education as well, isn't that right? There's a plant identification module, and so in addition to kind of doing lectures, students will go to lectures, they will have laboratory practicals. In Bees, we also pride ourselves on our field work, isn't that right? So what kind of field practicals did you do?
Yeah, so in my first semester of second year, I can recall specifically the Killarney National Park trip with Marcus Eichhorn as part of a conservation module. And this trip very much focused on the Irish woodlands. We got to take a trip to Killarney National Park, where we identified different species, took a look at the natural oak forests, at least segments of them that are left over, and some yew trees, and just in general, taking a look at the large biodiversity just in Killarney National Park on its own, and the different range of habitats and niches that can be found in such a, honestly, on a large scale level, small section of Ireland, and just how important it was. But that, of course, wasn't the only field trip we went on. We also got to go to Myrtleville in our second semester.
Myrtleville?
The Myrtleville Beach in Crosshaven,
nice,
as part of a geology module, where we got to look at now, I'm not a geologist, but I'm pretty sure it was different stratifications and of the Devonian period, I'm pretty sure it was. And it's just very eye-opening how all this history was right in front of us. And sure, I go to Myrtleville every single year during summer on a nice day, and it was honestly very inspiring to see that all of this is just around the corner from where I live, sure.
Yeah.
And also we got to go to Blarney Castle in the second semester as part of our plant identification module.
Another beautiful
it was gorgeous.
setting. Yeah.
Very nice. We got to go in spring, lovely weather.
Beautiful.
All the flowers were coming up. We got to take a look at wild garlic, just different plants that we have been told about, but then we were able to take a look at and learn to identify in real life.
And why do you think plant identification is so important, Daniela?
Oh yes, I think it's a very big skill that it's being lost with time. I think knowing your current area where you live, and you should know the plants that are around you. Different plants have so many different properties, I think, medicinal properties, and food properties. And I think that even if you want to go into conservation, the very first thing that they will ask you is to identify the 10 most common plants of the region. And I think it's a skill that can be applied to many different streams that unfortunately it is getting lost.
Yeah, no, it's a great skill to have, isn't it? And
Definitely.
At the moment I'm coming to a run of, I'm teaching into the pharmacy programme, so I do about 6 lectures and we do a tour for the pharmacy students. And of course we know that medicine and the drugs from plants, the plants that are used in a clinical setting, about 25% of the drugs come from plants. But it's really important, even from a traditional herbal medicine perspective, that if those items are stocked in a pharmacy, that the pharmacist knows the chain, the supply chain, and equally out in the field where these things are collected, it's really important to have people skilled in the identification of plants. So absolutely it goes. It's a wonderful skill to have. So you enjoyed developing that skill throughout those different modules.
Definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that I used to take students in the third year out to Blarney Castle. They have a nice poison garden out there, isn't that right?
That's right, yeah. Where different types of plants like hemlock and foxglove and all of these plants that are very pretty to look at, but there's this kind of misconception of if it's natural, it's safe. Knowing which plants are toxic and which are not is very important in that context, not just from a medicinal point of view, but particularly like hemlock is in the Apiaceae family, which is the carrot family. If you didn't know any better, you could be mistaken for pulling it up thinking you're going to find a carrot under there, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah, so that's really important, isn't it, to be able to differentiate. Yeah, and there have been some kind of stories in the media. There was a story a couple of years ago in the Irish Times actually talking about how a gentleman in Galway, I think, he accidentally incorporated digitalis into his smoothie or whatever it was he was making, so he ended up in hospital. So yeah, it's one of those skills that is really important, I think. Okay, so that's, I suppose, the second year and a bit about the about the field trips that you did. And also I know that in second year you do a module on biostatistics, isn't that right? So it's one of the things, again, that I think is a wonderful part of any of the degrees in the School of Bees, in that you get a broad training. You get a big training, a broad training, and a large set of skills, isn't that right? And what we would call transferable skills, all really important. Okay, so as we move into the third year then, so I know that in Applied Plant Biology we have a residential field course, and we've taken students over the years to lots of different places. Last year, where did you guys go for your 5-day or your 7-day residential field course? Where did you go?
We went to the Algarve in Portugal.
Oh, nice.
It was honestly one of the best trips I've ever been on.
Oh, fantastic.
It wasn't all just applied plant biology. We did a lot of trips with environmental science. But it was very interesting because Portugal obviously is very different from Ireland, especially with the climate and the sort of plants that grow there. But it really brought us all together in the course. I think it brought a sort of closeness to us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You all got to know each other. That's what I agree. Yeah, those residential field trips are brilliant for students, giving them a chance to get to know each other. Isn't that right? You spend a lot of time together. You go on the buses right across the Algarve to different sites.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the sites you went to?
Yes, actually, we went to a precision agriculture site. That was probably one of my favourite bits of it, where we got to look at a first-hand experience of how such a system works. It's a lot to do with monitoring and using as little resources as possible. Only the absolute necessities are used in terms of water, fertilisers, and I think it's a very big idea to put that knowledge forward into the future.
Yeah, so really we're talking there about reducing inputs but increasing outputs, isn't that right?
Exactly.
What were they growing, Aniela, do you remember?
So they were growing, at the time of our visit, they were growing papayas, but they were going to get rid of them because they weren't that profitable. Their huge focus was on blackberries, raspberries, and
nice.
They were going to introduce blackberries. I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
They grow hemp as well. They had, but we weren't allowed to go and see that, but they had a massive hemp farm.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually I know somebody sitting next to me here whose final year project was focused on hemp. We'll come back to that if we just bring that up again, Tom. Yeah? Oh, that was interesting, actually, that they have a hemp farm as well. What else did you do out in Portugal?
We went to a microalgae farm. I found that very interesting. I think it's a big upcoming industry. And they talked to us about the different ways that you could use microalgae. So what I found really interesting is it can be used to feed fish.
Yeah.
And then they were looking at going into the human supplement market. Like the beauty market.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting.
Yeah, brilliant. Those are big markets.
Yeah.
That feeds into the whole idea of the circular economy then as well, sustainable.
Yeah.
Sustainable feed for sustainable food.
Yeah, no, exactly. And speaking of the circular economy, so in the School of Bees in the plant science section, we have a system of growing. One system that we talk about is the aeroponic, the towers, the vertical towers. And these days we've combined that with an anaerobic digester. So we're putting food waste through the anaerobic digester. Methane is collected and it's used in cooking. The digestate from the digested food is then used as plant feed as part of the vertical tower system. So you just reminded me there, Tom, a good example of the circular economy in action. So yeah, I suppose that's something that kind of goes right through our degree programme, sustainability principles in the circular economy, and leaving the planet in a better place than we found it, isn't that right? So we talk a lot about that in the degree programme as well. Yeah, and just to go back to, we'll finish up then on talking about the Portugal field trip. So you did the precision agriculture, you did the microalgae.
We also did aquaculture, which I think was one of the most eye-opening experiences out of all of them, honestly. Yeah. The very first place that we went to, so we went to two facilities that both focused on aquaculture. The first one, it was very much not what I imagined an aquaculture farm to look like. It was out in the open. The fish were in very good condition, very well taken care of. The whole place was running on solar panels. It was honestly very impressive to me. And it definitely changed my perception of what aquaculture is until we went to the other farm, let's just say, if someone else would want to. Even.
The other farm was a lot less hygienic, and the welfare of the animals didn't really seem to be taken into account. We did see some shocking sights, like fish being having bad things happen to them, basically.
Oh, okay, okay. So, and then you went to did you go to an island, Culatra?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is Culatra then, for people who are not familiar with that, and how is that related to your programme?
So Culatra is an island that is trying to be, it was plastic free or carbon neutral by
2030, I'm pretty sure, yes.
We went, so there's all these ideas that they have for the island, but when we went there, it's kind of eye-opening to see you can have all these ideas, but you need to get the people on board that actually live there.
And did you get that impression that people were getting on board with the ideas?
I don't think that there's enough money for the regular person there to be able to partake in what they want to do to the island. There was still a lot of plastic, and I wouldn't necessarily say it was like poverty, but these people were working class. Like, why would they care about this issue when they have other things to think about?
More pressing issues, you think? Yeah. Okay. But did it help you broaden your understanding in terms of sustainability credentials, and, you know, at least seeing people kind of putting ideas into practice is, you know, and good, and as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, there was an emphasis on the goals, I guess.
Definitely a great place to try out different ideas and what have you, but I think inherently on an island like that, it's very hard to really envision a truly self-sufficient future anyway. Sustainable future maybe, but not a self-sufficient one.
How many are living on the island, do you know?
Oh, I can't remember. It's not too many.
Too many, no.
But also, I feel like tourism plays a huge part, because in order for them to have the money for that, a lot of it comes from tourism. And as we know, tourism often brings a lot of negative effects. For example, they had like the 10 rules of the island, and number 4 was 0 plastic. The second we got to the beach, the number 4 rule was literally scratched out, and there was plastic everywhere. Had to go into the ocean to take some out.
Yeah.
But they're trying, you know, and we have to start somewhere, and like we're saying, it's a good place to test out ideas.
Yeah, so it's great for students to visit, to see a kind of a case study, a real life case study, isn't that right?
Doesn't hurt that it's beautiful there as well.
And the weather was good for you when you were there?
Very much so.
Oh, great, good. And then other modules in third year, you do a conservation biology module, diversity and extinction, evolution. You also do a literature review. Tell me a little bit about that. So this is an independent study, isn't it?
So I feel like the literature review really prepares you for your final year project. So you are assigned a lecturer to help you with the project, and it's just very helpful because you get to know people in the department better and how to properly speak to people. And
you do some kind of presentations. You have to present in front of an audience,
and you're asked questions after, which is really good preparation for the final year project. Yeah, because that's what happens once you're done your project. You have to present, and you're asked academic questions.
Yeah, so it refines your communication skills, doesn't it? Which is really important, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, excellent. Okay, so and then. I suppose moving into the fourth year, but prior to fourth year, all students have an opportunity to do a work placement module, isn't that right?
Yes.
Did any of you guys partake in the work placement module?
Unfortunately, no.
No, you didn't? No. And some of our students do, and they find it great experience. So that's an option for any student coming in to do a work placement module. I think it's over 6 weeks in an industry. And sometimes students then might stay on for another couple of weeks and actually start their final year project in association with the company that they have been involved in. Yeah. Ella, I know you have an interesting kind of a work module. It's not really the work module, but tell us about your background there.
So I got a job because of my experience, I guess, in science. So I took a year out of college, and within that time I got a job in the food sector, working in new product development. So this is it would be a lot of food science, but applied plant biology and food science kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Things that I learnt about in applied plant biology, I could apply them to the job that I have. So I became the specifications technologist of a fish company. So I was basically filling in all the paperwork in order for things to go on shelves. And I had to look at all the legal requirements for packaging, communicate with different brands like Tesco's, Musgraves, all of these sorts of brands. But it definitely helped coming from a science background. The skills were very transferable.
Yeah. And I suppose what you're highlighting there is that, and we'll come back to talk about careers in a moment, but you're highlighting the fact that, that may not be such an obvious career path to somebody taking applied plant biology, but yet you found the skills you've acquired during the course of your degree have been really helpful with that. So that was during your year out, and are you still working part-time at weekends with them?
I was working part-time for them up until, I want to say, October.
Yeah.
And now I'm just taking some time out, but it's something I can go back to. It's also, I think it's really good skills for employment, not necessarily even in that industry. If I want to go into another industry, I have a good background.
Good for your CV, Ella, isn't it? Yeah. And it just shows that the number of kind of different opportunities that are out there, isn't that right? So that would be the work placement, and as I say, available to anybody who's interested. And Ella, that's just another example of something slightly kind of different, but absolutely brilliant. The other thing to say, and I don't think any of you guys did it, through Erasmus funding, some of our students apply during second year to either take a semester abroad or the full year abroad to, I suppose, a sister, shall we call it, sister university. And they may want to stay, as I say, for a semester, to get the experience of studying in a different country, a different institution, or maybe do the full year. So we have plenty of our students who kind of like to do that as well. Okay, and then we move into the final year, crunch time. You guys are in your final year now. You're all looking very happy considering exams are only a couple of weeks away. So in the final year then, you do a final year research project, which I suppose we can describe as the capstone project. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for everybody to develop their skills. And so at the moment, I happen to be the coordinator of that fourth year project in the School of Bees across the biology stream anyway. And I don't know, at the moment we have, close to 60 FYP students who spend approximately 6 months on independent research. And the topics, the student by and large chooses a topic that they are interested in. So if you like the idea of working on, say, biotechnology, you might decide to work with me for a 6-month period. And the feedback from the students is wonderful. It gets a bit stressful, I know, and you can tell me about your experiences now in a minute. So you, Aniela, what final year project did you do? Tell us a little bit about the skills you acquired and what you were doing as part of that.
So my project was titled Investigating How Waterlogging Affects the Growth and Development of White Clover during short day photo periods, which means wintertime. And basically, just to put it in short, what we ended up doing was I grew plants from seedlings. Then I set up a waterlogging protocol, which basically means I overwatered some plants while I had my control being under regular watering schemes. And after a 5-week period, I tested how different aspects of the plant were affected. So in terms of their physiology, I measured their leaf count, how much they grew, their fresh weight, their dry weight. And then molecularly, I examined their chlorophyll and starch content, as well as their stomata number, and basically I put all of that information into one big project, and I decided which of the 3 varieties that I was investigating was best suited for pasture fields, which will be more prone to waterlogging. Because as we know, white clover is a legume. It provides nitrogen into the soil, which reduces the need for fertilizer inputs. The whole project was also sponsored by Teagasc. They do a lot of research in Moore Park in Cork, and honestly, I read a lot of their papers during this project, and it just goes to show how important such a what might seem like a small topic is actually affecting the agriculture system as a whole.
Sector in Ireland, yeah, and of course a really important sector, isn't that right?
Definitely.
So, yeah, you enjoyed doing the project?
Very honestly, surprisingly more than I expected.
Yeah.
At the start, I was kind of worried about the molecular side of it. I did a lab module last semester in third year, and so I was more prepared for it after that. But definitely, you know, doing like such a big project where you have to do the whole write-up and the lab side and just collecting your own data and putting it all into one, mostly by yourself, obviously with the help of your supervisor. I think, honestly, I'm very lucky to have had a good supervisor and a good support system. Myself and Ella did a lot of things together.
Great. And that's important. And I think it's great if the students can do a bit of work together in the labs or in the field or whatever, because it's like a peer support group, isn't it? And I think, you know, there's, in my experience, there's plenty of that goes on in bees as well. Okay, that's brilliant. So you've submitted now anyway, haven't you?
Yeah, I already presented. Everything's done. I'm very happy.
Yeah, well done. Ella, what about you? What was your experience with the FYP, the final year project?
My final year project was basically the same as Aniela's, but I studied perennial ryegrass. Mm-hmm. So we did the same experiment as well. Like, we looked at the same molecular and physiological developments. But I found it really interesting. Like, I guess people wouldn't think grass is very interesting, but I really liked the, I guess, the kind of lit review you do at the beginning. Yeah. And
that kind of gives you a kind of a great insight into the industry, and it gives you kind of an understanding of why it's so important to do research in this area. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Like, perennial ryegrass is so important. I think it was something like 92% of Ireland's agricultural land usage is grasslands, which are like predominantly made up of perennial ryegrass. So if something happens in the future, like with climate change, if precipitation events become more extreme, we really need to look at how that's going to affect the agricultural landscape. Not only just for the grass, but for food security.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and mixed swards are really important for the reasons you highlighted, Aniela, in terms of nitrogen use, and isn't that right?
Definitely.
Reducing our inputs, all under the banner of sustainability, as we know. And those, again, that's a theme that runs right through the degree programme. Tom, what fabulous final year project did you do?
Yeah, so my project was a little bit different from Ella and Aniela's. I was actually growing cannabis sativa, also known as hemp. And I did a couple of different prongs of the project, shall we say. The main one was actually growing hemp microgreens under different light recipes, because, as we know, light is a fundamental resource for plants, and light is composed of all different colours, ranging from red to blue. So by adjusting the different amounts of red and blue light under different treatments, you can actually change how the plants grow. So what I was mostly interested in were compounds called phenolics, which are antioxidant compounds in the plant. These are of interest to humans because they're actually beneficial for our health. Like vitamin C is a very well-known antioxidant that we all know is very good for our health. So if we can find some way to improve the antioxidant compound in these plants, we can improve health.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you enjoyed doing the project?
I mostly enjoyed it. One part of it, my tissue culture experiments, as you well know, Barbara, didn't quite work out as expected. Tissue culture is a technique where you grow plants under typically sterile conditions. But unfortunately, a lot of mine ran into contamination issues. But that's just part of doing science, you know. And it's important when you're deep in the project to try and keep a cool head, even when things aren't going as expected, because when you're working with biological material, things don't go as expected.
Yeah, and in fairness to you, I don't think that contamination was your fault. I think it was endogenous contamination from the seeds.
I think so too. And it was definitely a great learning experience. And I enjoyed the project. Absolutely loved doing it all. I really enjoyed the lab work side of it. And as we discussed, you know, the applied plant biology degree really does give you a little taste of all of these different skills. So
most definitely. And I hear you had a great supervisor, Tom.
I did.
That was me.
That was Barbara, yeah. That was Barbara.
Joking, obviously. But on a serious note, one of the things that, and it goes back to mentoring, I suppose, a little bit, just my own experience is that I tend to, when I have weekly meetings with final year project students like yourself, I bring in the research team. So we all sit together around a table and we discuss and we help each other out. Isn't that right? And it's great to be able to talk science. Isn't that right? So, you know, we can discuss ideas, throw around, what we're doing for the week. We talk about that, and then, as I say, help each other refine protocols. And
one of the modules that we do as part of this course is actually the Frontiers in Biology module, which is where we have guest speakers come in and present cutting edge research in their field, not just plant science, but geology and environmental science as well. So once again, you really get a taste of what people are working on once they have their degree or once they have their qualification, you know.
And actually the Frontiers is just a wonderful module, isn't it? Were you going to come in there, Aniela?
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's so important to have like a multidisciplinary approach to science, as in like you might be a plant scientist, but I think it's so important to work together with ecologists, environmental scientists, geologists, because at the end of the day, it's not about very specific things. It's more like opening up a broad spectrum of science and just learning from others and communicating with others and learning. And that's what science is. It's about learning all the time. You never stop learning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really, it's this transdisciplinary approach.
Exactly.
I think is where we're at. Isn't that right? And coming back to that symposium we held last week where we were talking about STEAM principles, I come back to science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. And we know, of course, early advocates of STEAM would have been Leonardo da Vinci, a polymath, famous for his painting, but also a polymath, and as I say, a famous advocate of STEAM, even though obviously STEAM wasn't language wasn't in vogue at the time. Another early advocate of STEAM would have been the late Steve Jobs, CEO and co-founder of Apple, who was very much an advocate of a transdisciplinary approach to problem solving. And again, I come back to saying that whilst we're here talking about applied plant biology, we do realise in the School of Bees how important transdisciplinary approaches are to solving some of our biggest challenges. Yeah, the Frontier is a brilliant module, actually. Tom, just to go back to internships for a moment, I know that you did an internship. It wasn't the work placement module, but you did an internship in after third year. I know you did it in UCC, right?
That's right, yeah, with Dr. Maria McNamara, and that was actually in our paleontology lab. So.
Yeah. Okay, so how does an APB undergraduate go working in a paleontology lab? What's the connection there? Tell me.
Well, I mean, all of the wet lab skills, as we call it, which is, pipetting and working with test tubes and measuring analytical balances and whatnot. All of these are transferable skills that work in basically any lab setting. So whether it's plant science or paleontology, the fundamentals are the same.
Yeah.
Maria McNamara is a lecturer at UCC.
She's a professor. Yeah.
Professor, rather. Yeah. Sorry, excuse me.
No.
And yeah, the position was available for an internship during the summer between third and fourth year, and I just jumped at the chance because throughout all the modules we do touch on some paleontology as part of the geology.
In third year,
and dinosaurs are just cool, even as a mature student, I'm fascinated by fossils. So to spend a few weeks cracking open fossils, and get paid for it.
Yeah, and get paid for it, and to be able to apply your analytical skills that you've picked up through your applied plant biology degree is wonderful as well. I'm just reminded to say there, when you mentioned dinosaurs, of course, as part of our UCC Arboretum tour, we talk about the Wollemi pine, which the dinosaurs used to feast on, was thought to be extinct, the Wollemi pine, back until, or just until about 30, thought to be extinct, refound by 30 years ago, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And a nice segue I can introduce here is that biotechnology was used to actually ensure its survival or its continuity. Yeah, so, great the way we can bring all these stories together. So you can see how all the subjects are linked in some shape or form, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And I know when I'm putting together grant proposals, these days we're looking very much at a transdisciplinary approach. And I'm really happy for you guys going out, leaving UC, not happy that you're leaving, but happy that when you leave, that you will have a broad skill set that you can use across a multitude of industries. And I say that with confidence because when I look and I use LinkedIn to keep in touch with our past graduates, and I see where they are today. And I mean, the number of different sectors that our graduates go into after their degree is really inspiring for us. And so, like, for instance, Teagasc would be an employer of our graduates, different state bodies, the Environmental Protection Agency, companies like Pfizer, Stryker, BioMarin, Janssen, Goldman Sachs. We have graduates who went to Dairy Gold, Diageo, PepsiCo, Syngenta. I won't keep reading now, but I just want to read a few more. Regeneron, the Centre for Molecular Medicine and Therapeutics. And of course, we have some of our graduates will decide to go on and do a higher degree. So we have a really nice master's in research. It's called an MRes in plant biology as well. And we get other people coming from different programs like genetics and UCC who want to also do those kind of higher degrees with us. And of course, there is funding available through maybe national sources if you want to do a higher degree. So really, the world is your oyster. I want to talk about, before we finish up, just about your experiences then as young people in the School of Biological, Earth and Environmental Sciences. I mean, my perception and about liaising with the students is that we are quite a friendly school, isn't that right, within the university? And I know you guys, just from listening to you, there's a bees society, for instance. How important are societies in the life of a student, do you think? Aniela, I'll start with you.
Well, I might be a bit biased because I'm actually a chairperson of a UCC society.
Well done. Well done to you.
But I think...
Which society are you chair?
Slavic Society.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Keeping in touch with my roots.
Yeah. Great.
But no, societies, I think, are a very important tool to connect with people, like-minded people with similar interests to you. And also, I think, specifically the Bee Society, I think we really look out for each other. For example, I'm just a regular member on the Bee Society. I'm not on the committee or anything. But I feel comfortable reaching out to people on the committee. Like, for example, myself and Ella, we requested if we could talk to the members of the Bee Society in a kind of lecture talk and just to do that with them, and they were very on board. They're very helpful, and I could say the same thing about lecturers and people in the bees department, such as yourself, Barbara, who give us so many opportunities to be able to talk to different people in bees and just share our experience. And honestly, it's a great way to connect with people.
And that's all about additional graduate attributes, as we say in UCC, isn't that right? So I would be firmly of the opinion that education goes beyond the curriculum, very much so, isn't that right? And I know you guys in particular have a good reputation for volunteering. And I know this firsthand. Very recently at the symposium down in Photo, you guys manned the reception desk and you did the mobile mics for the audience and were very helpful. You've also been there at open days to help young people find out more about this particular degree programme. And okay, that benefits us. It's hugely beneficial to the school, but I know it benefits you guys as well, isn't that right? And you're very passionate talking about your subject, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you joined me today. I want to ask you about the Bees Ball. No secrets now, but you had a Bees Ball recently.
Yeah, we had a Bees Ball in the Metropole in Cork. It was really nice. It was first years to final years.
Great.
It was just really, it's not there weren't so many people there. I think it's something like under 200, but that meant that meant that we all kind of knew each other, and we could intermingle. It was really fun. It was dinosaur themed?
Of course it was dinosaur themed. I'm presuming you're out of Tom. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And it's great, I think, to have a community, isn't it? So you have a network going forward. And of course, remember that on LinkedIn, there is an applied plant biology grouping. We'll share those details on LinkedIn as well. And, well, I suppose all that remains is to say thank you very much to my guests today. We'll do a round table goodbye. So, goodbye from?
Goodbye from Aniela Lipa.
Goodbye from Ella McCarthy.
Goodbye from Thomas Hartree.
Oh, well done, guys. And really applause to you all. And thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.